Hello, welcome back to Only Pistols. Today we're having a look at a Tau 7. This is a 177 CO2 powered single shot target pistol. Let's start by looking at the markings on it. So on this side you've got made in Czechoslovakia, the F and a pentagram for the low pressure markings for the German and European market, and this device here which could be like a proof or a production stamp. So that's that. If anyone knows what that actually signifies, that would be very interested to know, and just put that in the comments. That'd be really good. Further along on the barrel, it's a bit indistinct, but I'll just even get it. It's caliber 4.5mm for the barrel diameter. On the top of the frame, Tau 7 for the model and the serial number, and that's it for markings. There's nothing on this side of the pistol. Rear sight is a very good rear sight. It's got a replaceable back plate, and that's quite simply just a very thin piece of stamped steel, and you come in a range of gap sizes. I think there's this one which has only got this one gap, and then there's the other gun I've got has got two gap sizes on it, so there's a total of 3 spaces, and that's just screwed on. The adjustments on those wheels, they're marked and they are just click adjustable, so finger powered. Very easy to understand sights, so let's get it to focus on it. So the windage is just quite simply on this threaded section here, so it just pulls the whole carriage side to side, and the elevation is this carriage here, so this bit is pulled up and pushed down a 45-degree shoulder. Just get it to mark it. There you go. So there's a 45-degree shoulder there. So this is just pulling that carriage up and down, and that alters the elevation. But a very good rear sight picture. Nice and wide, good and deep, and nice picture. Foresight is just a post held in the barrel weight on the end of the barrel. Probably came as a range of foresights available. This is the only one I've got. And if you wanted to take it out, you just undo that screw and that lifts out, which also gives you the ability to do some fine tuning to it. The muzzle is recessed by about 1 centimetre, and it just comes out into plain section of barrel just to protect the muzzle. It's a rifled steel barrel. So the construction generally of this pistol is basically steel and wood. There's virtually no plastic in it at all, just some O-rings. Trigger, and you probably noticed this is a bit exposed on this one, and we'll touch on that again later, but anyway, it gives a good opportunity to look at the trigger on this pistol, which is by turns very simple and very effective. So what have you got? This here is the adjustment for the weight of the trigger, first and second stage adjustments, and when the sear is engaged by the trigger movement, and then an over travel connection here. So when you set the trigger, or to pull the hammer forward, you'll move that lever there. The trigger shoe is actually connected, so you've got a sear that's holding the hammer back. And so when you pull the trigger back, you're releasing that sear to let the hammer drop. And you can also make out here the end of the valve. Yeah, so that's the end of the valve that the hammer will come back and strike. It's just like that. And the other thing you've got is an adjustment here under the barrel. So that's to adjust the preload on the hammer spring. So screw that in, you get more weight on the hammer. The hammer means that the valve is held open longer. So yeah, I'll touch on why it's quite so exposed, but it's a good opportunity to see it. And you can see that all the adjustment and how everything works is really kind of up front and not buried back in the pistol. The grip is a one-piece grip, not adjustable, fixed palm shelf. The surface is kind of roughed up. It's not stippled in any way, it's just rough. Fortunately for me, medium-sized hand, this grip fits very nicely. I haven't had to do anything to it. Obviously, if you did need to, you're just into getting the glass paper out and giving it a bit of adjustment. But it's a very simple but a very good grip, and works very nicely. Got to be a little bit careful if you do want to adjust it, because the inletting for where the CO2 is held, which moves on to the CO2. You undo this cap at the bottom, and this is a piercing cap. So what you've got here is an O-ring seal around the outside, and the peg in the middle is what will pierce the CO2 capsule. And then the CO2 holder itself, so it's all just brazed onto the bottom of the action, and you've just got a cylinder inside the grip, so it's held within the grip. The grip's held on by this nut. Let's get the light onto it. So you've got a nut with 2 prongs on it, so you can undo that, wind that off, and then the grip will come off. So you've got the option of standard 12 gram CO2, and that quite simply goes into the pistol, and then the cap goes on and winds down to pierce the cap. Alternatively, you get a bulk fill option. So you've got a plastic cover just to cover the thread, and that's just a one-way valve. So that's just simply screws on to the bottom of the cylinder like that. Cock the hammer so that you've got the weight of the hammer off the valve, and then you have a CO2 canister like this, which is just simply marked, so 1990 production on that one. You fill that with liquid CO2. When you're ready to load the pistol, quite simply hold the pistol so that the valve is vertical, screw the dumpy bottle on top, wait till the CO2, you can hear it go through, 5-10 seconds, unscrew it, a little puff of CO2, but you've now fully charged the pistol. And that'll give you a few more shots as well, because you've now filled that whole void with liquid CO2. But anyway, that's a bulk option. You quite often find the kits with these valves, but what you don't often find them with is the dumpy CO2 canister. So to load it normally with a 12 gram, take your 12 gram CO2 cartridge, drop it in, got your cap, screw it down, say have it cocked so you've got the hammer weight off the valve, and then using the tool that's provided, so that end is what you use for unscrewing the grip lock nut, and on the other end you've got that little stud in there, and you quite simply slip it over, locate the stud, and then you do that up, and you'll get to a point and it then just pierces through. So that then stops. Don't force it any further. It's done. So to prove that it's it's pierced the cap, take up the first stage weight and fire it, and you'll get a nice release of CO2. So now what you've got is CO2 held in the reservoir in the grip. So to load it, pull back on those toggles, and what they do is that they're pulling that shaped piece back, so you can see that's a profile, and that quite simply goes into this drilled hole in the frame. So it just comes down, it's at an angle, and that just locks in place. So to open it, pull back, lift it over, and what you've got is the valve. So the valve's under here. You can actually see the valve stem, there you go. So the valve's under here. When the hammer comes back, knocks the valve open, releases the CO2. The CO2 comes up through here, through this port here, and then out of there. If I can just get it to go, so out of this one. So it's just doing 90 degrees through this transfer port, and that's then directly into the back of the barrel and the back of the pellet. So to load it, quite simply, get a standard pellet, put it into the barrel. It's as simple as that. Fits in very easily, flush, and then you just close that over, make sure it's located. Cock it, and then take up the first stage weight, and it fires. And they're a decent power to them. So again, just really quickly, pull back on the toggle, load the pellet, close it, cock the hammer forwards against the spring, friendly fire. The other thing about the trigger, just quickly to mention it, it's just a folded steel trigger, and to adjust the reach, you just undo this screw here. That means you can run that forward and back on that track. But it's just, again, it's steel trigger, press steel. So accuracy, yeah, I really like these pistols. It is accurate. That's 5 shots in there. I'm pretty happy with that. Standard straight 50 first card. Wouldn't like to try and repeat it, but anyway, it's good. It's a really nice pistol. They're accurate. The barrels are very good. The trigger's good. Sights are good. The fact it's a budget pistol, yeah, okay, but it works. It's good. The other thing with this CO2 JSB, simply more to the point, is 8.2 grain, so rifle weight pellets, but it works. So some of the other stuff about this then. Tau. This is the third one. You had a Tau 5, which was put out in the 1970s, which was, you wouldn't really recognise it. The Tau 6 in the 80s, which was starting to look like this, but a bit rougher. And then the Tau 7, which was developed and came out in the 90s. So, and it's still in current production. Cover, the wood. It should have this on the fore end covering it. And for my mind, it's a bit G-plan. If you were around in the 70s and hung out with Habitat, you'd know what that is. Yeah, just the look of it. I keep meaning to make a thermoplastic cover for it because I think it would sort it out, but actually I quite like the brutalist open nature of that. It's a bit steampunk maybe, but it doesn't stop the pistol working in any way. So yeah, I'm happy I left that off. Other things you get with this: a rear weight. You get a lot of options. So that will screw into the back of the action. So you've got the option to put a weight on the back. Not sure whether that's currently ISSF compliant, but anyway. So rear weight. And you also get extra front weights. So they are literally, that's just literally a piece of steel with a locking nut on the bottom of it. To put it on, you have to undo the front part there, take that off, undo that, slide that all on, lock it on with the lock screw, and then just make sure you've got it all upright again. Because as I said, there's no flats on the barrel to help locate these. Of course, if you did put a flat on it, you'd have to make sure it was absolutely right. By having no flats, it's down to the shooter to make sure they've got the foresight upright. So you've got quite an ability to change the weight of the pistol. Its design. So designer Vladimir Urinkat and Tau. So Target Aeron Urinkat. So Target Factory Urinkat. So it's the factory owned by the designer, effectively, for Tau. Doesn't get much simpler than that, but it was an explanation I found, and I'm quite pleased I found it. So yeah, a good thing. So what are these? These are basically described as a training pistol, but as you've seen, they're perfectly accurate. And you know, if you turn up on the range, if you can do your bit, these pistols absolutely can. The grip, yeah, it's quite basic, but you've got the wood there and the ability to make it fit. So there you go, my Tau 7, minus its G-plan furniture. A very good pistol. If you get a chance to buy one of these, do. Only weakness I've seen on them is the rear sights. You quite often find them with a split or a crack here, and some of this can be a little bit fragile for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe people are just rough with them. They are stuck out the back quite a lot. The other thing is, a bit like the Bakel, be careful when you cock it that is actually all the way down locked, because otherwise it will operate with that there, and that does then blow the O-rings out. The good news with this is that these are standard O-rings, so if you do manage to lose one, it's quite a simple job to replace it. You're not looking at something special. So there you go, the Tau 7. If you've liked this, then please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, tell other people about it, do all that YouTube and stuff. And otherwise, thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon with another pistol. Bye.